Hello everyone, welcome back to Durbanites FPL. It's time for season 26-27 to kick off. Here's the league code right in the top right corner. Looking forward to you guys joining in the next week before we get started. Now, we're going to cover in this particular video, we're going to go through each one of the teams and look at whether they're a good pick for the first 5 game weeks, the transfers in, the transfers out, change in management, which is really big this season, and at least my opinion on how they would perform in the first 5 game weeks. One of the reasons we're focusing on the first 5 game weeks is we have consistent football in the first 5 game weeks and then a 3-week international break, which also collides with the closing of the transfer window. So at that stage, there might be a lot of changes based on injuries to players, new transfers in, transfers out, as well as our own understanding of how teams are performing and what their form looks like. So without further ado, let's get into it, starting with Arsenal. So guys, the reigning champions, you expect they would be doing well, but as you can see, I have them as a caution. The reason why I have them as a caution is, firstly, you can see that they have 2 tough fixtures against opponents that gave them some challenge last season. Aston Villa as well as Chelsea. Now those teams are also subject to changes in personnel in terms of players leaving, new players arriving, so it's difficult to say, but as you can see, it's 2 red fixtures in the first 5. Sunderland themselves are pretty strong as a team. You know, they gave a lot of big teams issues last season. Brighton are no slouches as well. They have some consistency coming into their team. So aside from the Coventry fixture, it doesn't look too promising for an Arsenal start. Also take into consideration that many of the Arsenal players, key players like Declan Rice, went to the World Cup and went right up to the final stages, so still haven't joined the team for pre-season yet. Gabriel as well, so a lot of the World Cup players haven't come back and started kicking off yet, so just be very, very cautious of that. They have had some transfers in, so Bruno Guimaraes is the latest one coming in from Newcastle, which is really big for them, and Christoph Solis, who's there on the left-hand side, essentially covering for Leandro Trossard. But as you can see, Trossard is left for Besiktas and Jakub Kiwior joining Porto. Mikel Arteta is still the man in charge, so they're still fairly good. But as you can see, fixtures are not too favorable, and if you look at the pricing, also super expensive. Declan Rice now up to 7.5, Saka to 9.5. Gabriel, who was almost a core pick for everybody last season, 8 million for him. David Raya, 6 million for him, the most expensive defender and goalkeeper. Now 14 million just on those 2 players. I'm not sure whether it's enough. As you can see, they also have some issues with Saliba out for a longer term, probably only back next year. So early January, February, because he's got an issue with his back, and Julian Timber still out. So as you can see, Arsenal are going to be playing with a pretty reduced squad, and not sure how effective the partnership is going to be between Gabriel and Hincapié, or Gabriel and Calafiori, or Mosquera. So guys, make your choices based on this. Let's move on though into Aston Villa, who did fantastically last season. Were challenging really well for the top at some stage, but then dropped off. Now they've had some transfers in as well. Alejandro Garnacho joining from Chelsea, João Gomes coming from Wolves, a very exciting creative player, and Manzambi joining from Freiburg. So that's a player that was also heading to Newcastle, but then moved to Aston Villa. On the transfers out, Morgan Rogers, which is such a huge favorite for Aston Villa, FPL managers have now moved out, as well as Yuri Tillemans, who's moved to Manchester United. So Unai Emery is still in charge. He's still got a good team that he's ready to manage. From the defensive side, Ezri Konsa had a fantastic World Cup, so well priced for a good defender, as well as Matty Cash, who of course does really well with attacking returns. Luca Digne is marked in red because he's moving to PSG, so it just hasn't updated on the system yet, so just be aware of that. In the midfield, there's nothing new to call out. I mean, again, you've got Garnacho that's coming, you've got Yves Guessant that has moved in there as well, and Manzambi. Not sure how they will line up yet. In the preseason hasn't shown us a lot, but McGinn is aging, of course. Buendia could suddenly become the core of the team, and João Gomes, who played well for Wolves, could do better in this Aston Villa setup. Ollie Watkins is still the standout in terms of points when it comes to attackers. Not such bad fixtures coming in there. Again, I say move with caution, because Hull is the only one that is really probably the one they can excel in, but they do have Arsenal in game week 2, which is not easy. And then, of course, they've got a Spurs team, Forest team, all that are going through major changes. So maybe have a look at Aston Villa before going for their players. Let's move on then to Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth, as you can see, and some of you might be thinking, I'm crazy because I'm saying avoid Bournemouth. Now, the reason why I'm saying that, guys, is a lot of changes to Bournemouth. As you can see, they brought in Antonio Silva and Rodriguez, but Senesi's left for Spurs, and he was a big influencer in the Bournemouth defense last season, and Sinisterra's moved to Cruzeiro. Also, most importantly, Andoni Iraola has moved to Liverpool, so they have a new manager that's come in, possibly could do well. It's difficult to say. And so for that reason, really asking you to think carefully about Bournemouth. They have Manchester City in game week 1. That's never going to be easy. Liverpool in game week 5. And along the way, not the easiest of fixtures as well. Now, considering it's a new manager coming into the team that's also a bit changed and still might face Alex Scott not being available. Krupi Jr. is injured for the start of the season for possibly 4 months. So there's a bit of challenge that's happening at Bournemouth. So regard with caution. At the same time, Tavernier and Scott are good picks if you're looking for someone that will do well, because based on last season, Hill is also not a bad shout. But again, I would have a look at what their defense looks like against City before making a choice on how I would move forward with Bournemouth players this season. With that, let us move forward to Brentford. Now, the Bees did really well last season, lost Thomas Frank to Spurs in last season, but did really well with Keith Andrews, so he retains his job as well. And so if we look at them, you can see that they've brought in quite a few players. Sangari coming in from Lens, Callum Wilson joining from West Ham, Jaden Anthony from Burnley, we know how exciting he is, and Schuster joining from Salzburg. Only Jordan Henson leaving to Chelsea, and he had an agreement with them to do that. You can see quite a few good call-outs there. Coyote and Aya played. Aya did really well in the World Cup as well. Coyote with his long throws is definitely someone you can get assists on. Then you've got Dango Otara and Shada from the attacking point of view. And of course, Igor Thiago, penalty taker as well, taking some set pieces as well, and did really well last season in terms of scoring. Brentford have a slightly cautious start of the season. Spurs is an unknown entity, 17th for the last 2 seasons, but they have done a lot of work, and we're going to discuss that, which means that they could come out firing under De Zerbi this season, so be a bit wary of that. Leeds is again a little bit unknown, have sold some players, we'll talk about them a little later on as well. Sunderland seems to be the one that they're tipped to topple over, and then you've got Bournemouth and then Chelsea. Again, another team that I would watch before making any calls on this year. Then let's move on to Brighton and Hove Albion. Now here, guys, I want to make a call out. You'll see there's another icon up there where we're saying caution, but we've also got an icon for revolving here, so meaning that these will switch out with other players as the game weeks go. So while you might not start with Brighton as well, you can see that in week 3 and 4 they have much more favorable fixtures. So you might want to look at the transfers between your starting players and Brighton players in week 3 and 4. So when you see that icon, it means that there's a possible good switch up with other teams in the season. Now, looking at the transfers in, Luka Viskovic, who's come from Spurs, a highly rated 19-year-old. They paid 45 million for him. He did really well in the Bundesliga. He's super highly rated. So I would look at him to start at Brighton as well, to cover up for Jan-Paul van Hecke, who's moved in the opposite direction. Svoboda's come in, Pascal Struck's come in from Leeds, and Costinha from Olympiacos. They have lost out on Danny Welbeck, who did really well for them last season, has gone off to Chelsea. Jan-Paul van Hecke, as we said, has gone through to Spurs. James Milner and Solimarch both been released, old-timers who have done their time in the league and really did well for Brighton and Hove Albion. Verbruggen is a good choice from their goalkeepers. He's really solid, and as you can see, the fixtures are fairly favorable, and he rotates well with other goalkeepers that might be in that space. And then from the defenders, you've got Struck, who's done really well at Leeds last season. Dunk, who's a consistent performer. Mats Wiffer, who also plays as a bit of a midfielder, so he has assists and goals coming in, so maybe a chance for you to score some big points from him. And De Keper, who also did well alongside Van Hecke last season. Then you've got Vuskovic, the youngster, who at 5 million is pretty expensive, so that should tell you a little bit about how well he's rated, but definitely a good pick that you might want to look at further down the line. Pascal Gross will now take over penalty duties because Danny Welbeck is out of the picture. So look at Gross doing free kick duty, penalty duties. He's really well priced at 5.5 if you're looking at an option. Again, first 2 weeks might be a bit tricky, but week 3 and 4, I would definitely look at including him. Let's move on to Chelsea. So Chelsea have made some big moves this season, as you can see, but this time looking at more experience. So Jordan Henderson coming in from Brentford, Danny Welbeck coming in from Brighton, Baco joining from Strasbourg, who of course Chelsea affiliate club, Lacroix joining from Crystal Palace, Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa for 117 million, huge salary, and Marco Palestra coming in from Atalanta. Big signings, really attacking. Xabi Alonso is the new manager, and he is looking to build a very resilient and attacking squad. They've got rid of Alejandro Garnacho, who was not really doing well at Chelsea. Marco Correa to Real Madrid is a bit of a loss for them. Andre Santos to Manchester United, and Tyreek George to Everton. So big hitters going out, but I think he's building a team in his own model here that he can look at. So in terms of looking at the teams, you can see week 2 and week 4 are fairly good fixtures for them. Week 3 has got Arsenal. So again, you might want to focus on them, but look at a good rotation for Chelsea players as well. Morgan Rogers mainly might be tempted with that 7.5 price tag to take him on. You still got Cole Palmer there at 9.5, but he's going to be taking penalties. He's looking good in preseason. Definitely ones that you want to look at is João Pedro and Danny Welbeck. João Pedro scored 4 or 5 goals in preseason already, so really looking in good form. And if you look at the rest of the lineup there, Delap might be leaving as well on a loan or transfer, same as Mark Guiu. So it's really between João Pedro and Danny Welbeck, and I assume that Danny Welbeck will play almost 30 minutes to 20 minutes to close out the matches. So João Pedro probably locked in to start, and I would definitely recommend having him on the team. Jamie Gittins also done really well in preseason, so at 6 million, he's not a bad shout. I'm not entirely sure how much he will play, so I would wait to see how many minutes he gets before bringing him in. But if you're looking for that 6 million midfielder, Jamie Gittins doing really well as well for Chelsea. Let's move on to our first promoted team. So Coventry City coming up with Frank Lampard. So guys, looking at Coventry, they also have some good rotations, as you can see, week 2 and week 4. Teams that I have a chance against, but a very rough start in game 1 and game week 3. So think about how you might use your transfers here. Some of the players that have been called out, Thomas is really good for DEFCON. Last year was a very good DEFCON machine. With Coventry in the big leagues this year, he probably have a lot more work to do. Same with Van Ewijk. Both of them are pretty locked in for minutes as well. So if you're looking for those cheaper defenders to bolster your team, these are good DEFCON contributors and regular names on the team, as well as Rushworth, who's just been transferred in from Brighton. Pretty promising keeper for them. Probably go to the Coventry City number 1 spot as well. No other call-outs for this team, pretty much an unknown, but again, might want to look at the fixtures and decide on these guys as well. Let's move on to Crystal Palace. Now, Crystal Palace is a very changed team as well, guys. New manager, Olivier Glasner, we all knew during last season he's leaving, so he has left now and joined his new team, Notts Forest, which we'll speak about later. Pierre Sage has come in. He's unknown to EPL managers, but well known in the management sector. Just one transfer in, Mingueza from Celta Vigo and Lacroix out to Chelsea. Now these are bigger name transfers. As you can see, the fixtures are also not super favorable except for Ipswich, and we need to understand what this new Crystal Palace will look like. Dean Henderson is still in there, Victor Munoz is still in there, but don't forget they've lost Gehi now last season. They've lost Lacroix now already, so you're looking at maybe Munoz, Mitchell, Richards, Canvo taking the lead here, but we also don't know what kind of Crystal Palace this is going to be. It is not Olivier Glasner's Crystal Palace, so just be aware. Looking at the midfield, pretty much the same as well. No big changes here as he left midway through last season, so we know about that. Everyone else is still pretty much holding. Adam Wharton has an injury coming in, which is quite unfortunate for him and for Crystal Palace. And there is still some rumor around Jean-Philippe Mateta getting a transfer out of Crystal Palace, so just be aware of that. But Jorgen Strand Larsen and Eddie Nketiah are not unknown entities, just haven't got the minutes last season, so be aware of Crystal Palace. Looking at Everton, pretty quiet in the transfer market as well. Hayden Hackney coming in from Middlesbrough, he was their captain there, and Tyreek George coming in from Chelsea. Garner's been released, and I wonder whether it's anything to do with the red card showdown with Michael Keane last year. But David Moyes is still there. We know that he builds strong, resilient teams that can definitely frustrate the opponents. Jared Brantwaite is fully fit again, which is fantastic. We missed him last season. Really good attacking left back, but priced quite highly, so we probably need to see how his form is before things happen. Dewsbury Hall is a good pick at 6.5 as well, and Iliman Ndiaye, even though he might go to Saudi League, so just be aware of that and keep an eye on it. Up front, you've got Beto probably as your starting forward. Not much transfer activity for Everton as well, but they look to start making themselves really solid at Hill Dickinson Stadium. The fixtures are not too favorable for them, so I would wait and maybe look at what happens in game week 5, and then after the international break, a good chance to bring in any Everton players that might be shining. Fulham. So Fulham, guys, a lot of change in Fulham as well. Marco Silva has left and now replaced by Alvaro Arbeloa. For those that don't know him, also had a stint as Real Madrid manager last season, so not unknown to big teams and big pressure. Fulham's probably got one of the worst starting fixture rosters that you can see. Chelsea in week 1, then Sunderland, who we know can be difficult. Crystal Palace, not the same as last year, I get it, but then Liverpool and Manchester United to round up their first 5 games. I expect Fulham to struggle in the first 5 games. They've brought in 2 great replacements from Real Madrid, Gonzalo Garcia and Palacios. Both have followed Arbeloa through, so good talents that are coming in. And Asari from Bayern Munich is a really exciting young forward. They have lost Raul Jimenez, as you can see, to Wolves. Harry Wilson has left and joined Leeds. And of course, Diop is now at Ipswich. Now, looking at them, you might want to look at Robinson as Castagna as your pairing for centre-backs. Now, both of them had injuries last season, which is why they didn't score well, but they should be a good starting pair. Then Emil Smith-Rowe is also quite well known to you guys. He did really well last season in spits and starts. Let's see if he gets a better chance under Arbeloa, who looks at wing-back attacking. And then again, up front, you've got Garcia as a good forward coming through from Real Madrid as well. Rodrigo Muniz is still there. Not entirely sure which way this will go. Let you be guided, but I would definitely not choose anyone from Fulham unless I'm super desperate for the first 5 weeks of the season. Let's move forward to the second promoted team, Hull City. So guys, for Hull City, again, we don't know much about who's left there, but here they again are coming into the Premier League. Not unknown, they've been here in the last 10 years for sure, for a couple of visits. They've only got one good fixture that we can call out, Coventry, but a start against Manchester United could be tough for them. And then Chelsea in week 4, Aston Villa in week 3, Newcastle in game week 5. And Newcastle have their own challenges, but we expect that they should take Hull City on. The only call-outs here are 2. Egan, who is again locked on for a defense and defensive contribution. So again, if you're looking for a 4 million player that you can bring in and will rotate well in game week 2, that's your man. And then, of course, McBurney, who's one of their top scorers from last season. If you want to look at a fairly reasonable 5.5 striker to bring in and maybe put in for a bench boost or for a rotation. You can see that they've had quite a few transfers in, including Matt Targett from Newcastle, who was released, and Jack Butland coming in from Rangers, so that should be good for their starting keeper. But again, tough fixtures, guys, means that good players are probably not the only thing that's going to help them. They need to wait for the favourable fixtures, and let's see how they do in the season. They're pretty unknown to us, so let's see how they go before we put in a lot of investment into their players. Ipswich Town is the third promoted team, so the Tractor Boys are back. They were here in the league 2 seasons ago, then dropped out and now are back. But without Kieran McKenna, who's taken some personal time off to be with his family, so Gary O'Neill is coming in as a manager. Now, for those that aren't familiar, Gary O'Neill is a very solid manager, but not the most attacking and innovative, which is exactly what Kieran McKenna was. So just be aware that you're probably looking at some pretty standard football from Ipswich Town, which is why we've put them on a caution. They have Sunderland. Let's see how they'll do in game week 1. Maybe give you some confidence. But then Man United, Liverpool, before having Crystal Palace and Everton. Another team that I would caution. Maybe wait for the first 5 game weeks before you make some decision. Lots of transfers in. They've been really, really busy. You can see Luis coming in from Burnley, Skirpin from Royal Union Saint-Gilloise. Then Maeda from Celtic, sorry for the wrong spelling there. Fatau from Leicester City. Diop from Fulham. Emerson from Toulouse. Akpom from Ajax, Atherton from Chelsea, and Smotsic from Derby. Now, again, Diop, we know him from Fulham. He's pretty solid at the back and probably be their starting centre-back as well, so that's why we've called him out. We don't know too much about the rest of the players, and as you can see, they've got quite a bit of squad depth. Jadon Philogene is coming back as well into the season, but again, I would look at all of these players carefully before making a decision. Guys like Maeda at Celtic did really well, but it's unknown how he will perform in the Premier League. Let's go on to Leeds United. Another caution here, because as you can see, Leeds United are taking on Forest, Brentford, and Brighton, tough teams for Leeds to go up against, so very solid teams. And Crystal Palace, if you look at last season, funnily enough, Newcastle is marked as the one that they will probably be able to score against. I think people are just giving Newcastle a tough time. But a few transfers coming in, including Harry Wilson coming in from Fulham, which is fantastic. But they've lost Darlow to Manchester United, Struijk to Brighton, and Meslier to Arsenal. So as you can see in goalkeepers, they're pretty down looking at a transfer coming in, but they've not done any. They've still got Daniel Farke in as manager, so that's really good for them. You can see from the players there, Rodon, Bijol, there's quite a few players that performed last season. Harry Wilson did really well at Fulham. Whether he'll get a start at Leeds midfield, it's important to see. But we know some of the top performers as well: Stash, Ampadu, Aronson, Okafor. You can see the points there, including Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who was quite an amazing pick for a third-place striker last season. Price has gone up a little bit on him, so 6 million for him, 6.5 for Wilson. These are good picks, but I wouldn't pick them specifically for the start of the season. I need to see what Leeds looks like against these new teams. Because teams have got new managers, doesn't mean that they'll do poorly. Brentford already showed that they can do really well against Keith Andrews and definitely outperformed Leeds last season. Brighton as well, similar with Fabian Hartzler. So it's really just to see what Olivier Glasner does with Nottingham Forest, and I think he possibly could do well, and how the new Crystal Palace looks. So I would give Leeds again first 5 weeks to show me what they can do before deciding on how to invest in players post the transfer window closing. Here's one of the biggies: Liverpool. So champions 2 years ago, last season, a terrible defense and a tricky start. Newcastle on the first day of the season, so Alexander Isak looking to go back to his former club to try and perform, and he didn't have a very good season last season. So we have to look at what Liverpool is doing within this transfer window. So they've managed to steal Victor Munoz from Newcastle again in the transfer window, coming in from Osasuna. Jeremy Jacquet comes in as a replacement for Ibrahima Konate, who's left on a free to Real Madrid. And they've got in Martinez coming in from Atletico Nacional, but they have lost Mo Salah on a free, who's now joined Trabzonspor. They've lost Andy Robinson to Spurs on a free, and Konate on a free to Real Madrid, and a new manager that's coming after Arne Slot was sacked in the summer. Players are still pretty much the same. Virgil van Dijk is definitely going to be the key centre-back. But if you look at it there, Leone is injured, Gomez injured, Bradley is injured. So quite a bit of stress in their defense currently, and they've not made a lot of signings in the market, as you can see. Szoboszlai still tipped to be the top midfielder, but guys like Gravenberch, Wirtz have not really impressed. McAllister as well had an okay World Cup, but didn't really impress. Curtis Jones is having some issues because he's looking to leave the club or get some solid time on the field. Reon Gumoa has been really good, youngster in pre-season, but the question is, will he be played above Cody Gakpo? And Cody Gakpo also has some transfer speculation of whether he will go to Spurs as well as part of their revamp. Ugo Ekitike is injured, as you can see. That's the ACL, so he's out at least for the first half of the season. Alexander Isak is fully fit though, so expect him to start and lead the line in game week 1. Now, if you look at the fixtures, you can see that I've also got Liverpool in as a rotation, while I would give them the first 2 weeks to kind of show us what they got and what level they're at. Game week 3 and game week 4 are good chances for them to get the points. So again, if you're looking to rotate players out in game week 3 and game week 4, these are the ones that you can look at. And this means, guys, you can be really smart about using your five transfers, so stacking them up so that you can have some free transfers for game week 3, 4, and make those moves when the time is right. So let's leave Liverpool behind and move into Manchester City. So guys, for City, Elliot Anderson was a big signing coming in for them from Notts Forest this season, had a good World Cup as well, and he's really solid. Then they've signed the youngster Jeremy Monga, also from Leicester City. Bernardo Silva did leave at the end of last season, now signed for Real Madrid. John Stones left at the end of last season, now at Inter Milan. And Nathan Ake has left for Fenerbahce. Enzo Maresca is taking over from Pep Guardiola. He's not an unknown entity to the players at Man City, so we know what we can expect from him. Still two relatively okay fixtures to start off. Again, Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, both of whom have lost the managers that made them so formidable. and a few players that have made them so formidable. So we expect that Manchester City will get off to a good start, considering they still have their core of their team in place. And then you're looking at Coventry and Sunderland in weeks 3 and 5, with just the Manchester Derby in game week 4, a good option for you to rotate then when that comes around. Looking at the back, Mark Gahey and Nico O'Reilly still expected to be featuring well this season, so priced pretty highly, so think carefully before you choose them as well. And then looking at the midfielders, Anton Semenyo had a fantastic season last season, and Elliot Anderson as well. Both of them will probably feature a lot in Manchester City's lineup, considering Bernardo Silva has left, so that attacking threat is gone. And now you've got Elliot Anderson coming in, possibly to replace Rodri, who you can see here has a slight injury and might also move to either Barcelona or Real Madrid. We're following that story as it goes. But of course, right up front there, guys, 239 points last season. Erling Haaland, the robot, he's one that should be on your team to start the season. He has a fantastic record of starting the season, and make sure that you capitalize on that as well. Let's move ahead here to Manchester United. So guys, for Manchester United, Michael Carrick is now the manager, so not much has changed there. So far, good transfers in. Yuri Tielemans from Aston Villa, so solid. Andre Santos from Chelsea as well, and Dalot from Leeds United as a backup keeper. Rasmus Højlund was on loan last season, and then also went out to Napoli. Sancho's been released, Casemiro's joined Inter Miami, and Onana is on loan at Trabzonspor. You can see that they're also good rotation options, so good for the first 2 weeks, and also maybe good to rotate with Liverpool in week 3 and 4. So think about that as a possible setup of how you could use those 3 transfers when week 3 comes around. But from the defenders, you can make your choice there. Shaw, Dalot, all of them are fairly reasonably priced, and looking at who could start, you can make your choice. Euro probably not starting, but you're looking at Shaw and Dalot, probably between them. Looking at the start there, and Maguire should be locked in as well because Matthias de Ligt is still out. Looking at the midfielders, any of that attacking space can be used as well, guys. I haven't really called out the 2 new midfielders. We need to see how they will be used so far. But Bruno Fernandes, super expensive at 12 million, but the points are there as well. Just falling 4 points short of Erling Haaland last season, so that should tell you enough. Manu Ugarte is out, injured probably for the whole of the season, so we're not going to see him. Right at the bottom there, I just want to call out Marcus Rashford is in with 0 points because he spent last season at Barcelona, so didn't earn anything in EPL. But guys, if he's reintegrated into the team, Marcus Rashford is a great way to earn points for assists and goals as well. And then possibly also some good DEFCON along the way. Ben Sesko will probably lead the line. As you can see, he's got a slight knock, but should be okay for the start of the season. Josh Zirkzee possibly leaving on a transfer before the window closes this year. Let's move into Newcastle United. So guys, for Newcastle, topsy-turvy, a lot of outgoings as you can see. Gimenez to Arsenal, Tonali to Spurs, Gordon to Barcelona, Trippier is released, as is Emil Kraft. In they've got a backup keeper in Honeychek. Bamba is in from Monaco, Stur from Ajax, and Toure from Hoffenheim. No one that has really been lighting up the skies here, but Malik Thiaw is a good call out for a top defender that you can put in if you have the faith in them, and then any one of the backup defenders from Newcastle as well. And Harvey Barnes should now have a chance to get a starting place in the lineup because of the transfer of Gordon. He is an explosive player, so maybe a good option to look at 6 million. The fixtures are not fantastic, that's why we put them on caution. You can see that they've got Liverpool in game week 1, then Spurs, who we again don't know a lot about. Bournemouth, based on last season, are going to be tough, but we have to see how that works out this season. Then Leeds before Hull. Again, another team that I would wait to see what the first 5 weeks look like under Matthias Jasler, and then decide after that international break on how I want to proceed with that. Then we move on to Notts Forest, guys. So for Notts Forest, not much transfers in. Of course, out the biggest one was Anderson to Man City. Nico Williams is the pick here for the defensive side, but Milinkovic, Murillo, you know them. We just need to see how they will work under Olivier Glasner. Gibbs White is an outstanding midfielder, so one that you might want to look at, but at 8 million is slightly overpriced, I would think. And then Igor Jesus has been having a fantastic preseason. Not sure whether he will get the start though for Notts Forest. So we got to see what Olivier Glasner is thinking about. The fixtures are not too bad, but I've put in the caution there because you've got a Liverpool, Tottenham, Aston Villa in the middle, which means that they're not really a good rotation option as well because they've got Leeds and Coventry on either side of that. Another one that I would probably wait at least 5 weeks before I make a call, because again, their players are not really cheap. Moving into Tottenham Hotspur then, guys. So you can see with Tottenham Hotspur, a lot of transfers in. Tonali, Matthias Fernandes, Van Hecke, Dubravka, Robertson, Senesi, all Premier League proven players. Getting rid of Radu Dragusin on a loan to Fiorentina and Vuskovic to Brighton. The fixtures look a bit odd based on last year's performance, but again, they take on a Brentford team early on that should let them know how they're doing. Then a Newcastle team, as you can see, who was gutted a little bit. Notts Forest team, who are new management. Everton team, who themselves are struggling with players as well. And a Villa team that has also lost a core group of their players. So we need to see. I would focus on them because I think they've been doing really well in preseason, and we know a lot of the players that have come in. So guys like Van Hecke, Pedro Porro, who won the World Cup in the summer, and Van de Ven, we know their performance, and now we know they will have some support. I wouldn't choose any forwards from Spurs right now. They're really struggling in that department, so let's see where they show up from there. And then right at the end, guys, we've got Sunderland as well. So looking at Sunderland, just one transfer in. So Meunier coming in, the Belgian coming in from Lille. Still some favorites there. So Robert Roofs, we know, was really good last season. Kiele with his long throw-ins as well, fantastic. Then you've got Alderete and Ballard, both of them DEFCON monsters, so definitely ones that you want to look at. Enzo Lefeu is going to be on penalty duty this season, so definitely one that you want to look at 6 million. It's not a bad shout out. And the fixtures in the first 2 weeks, fantastic. So between them and Manchester United, first 2 weeks fixtures are good. And then in week 3 and 4, maybe again, looking at Liverpool as a possible option and outlet for them. Brian Brobby did well in the World Cup, scored as well for the Netherlands, and probably is going to start. But it's really between him and Isidore. It depends on how Regis Liberty wants to look at it this season. So guys, that was our call out, and sorry for the pretty long video, but that's what we have for this startup. Now, because of last season, we had about 21 teams, which was fantastic, but it's a lot of work to get through. And halfway through the season, a lot of managers did give up on their teams and made no transfers and no changes, and it was just a lot of work. So for this season, guys, the code is there. Make sure you join up, but we are going to restrict you to one team per person, just to make sure that you are still engaged with your team and not really losing it along the way. Feel free to join. The deadline, as you know, is by the 21st of August. You've got to be in, so that means by the 20th of August, you've got to have your team registered and in the league, or you might face not getting in and start scoring from week 1. So for now, don't forget to like, subscribe, get your teams ready. Feel free to reach out in the comments looking for some advice. We'll try and guide you along the way. But until then, so long for now.